Ontar's log, 21st of Gaynado, 2,000 years after sunfall. It's been a long time since I last logged in this journal. Though we may be in the same place on paper, geographically, party dynamics could not be more different than they were last time I opened these pages to write. Truly, so much can happen in a single day. On my many adventures, both in the previous time and this one, I found that sometimes after days like these, it's not the fight that's remembered, but rather the coming together that happens after it, or happens when we lick our wounds and do our best to continue on despite them. With that, here's a recap of last session. It was about midday on the 20th when we set out from Oman Ken to the forest of Munti, my home. As we walked the narrowing path, our pack mule became uneasy. Balazar, having the ability to speak with animals, helped put its worries to rest though, and we continued on our way, unhindered. Eventually, as night approached, we set up camp off the side of the road, near the river which flows through the forest and out to the Chinomar. Balazar and I went hunting so as to spare our rations, while the rest stayed behind, setting camp. A little while later, Michael was alone with the mule, quietly fuming over his feud with Eltonis. He ranted and raved to the quiet mule as he fed it, eventually deciding that he didn't need Eltonis because he had Altonis, the much more helpful mule. Struggling to find something for Altonis to drink from, Micah took him down to the river. While there, the two were set upon by a few deadly gnomes. The young wizard sent a distress signal to Tebby and did his best to protect Altonis until help arrived. Within a minute, Tebby and Eltonis were running down the hill, axe and bow in hand, but Micah had already been rendered unconscious and was slowly reverting to his true, albino-like form. Seeing their friend in peril, Tebby and Eltonis were quick to dispatch the gnomes, pulling Micah to safety and returning to camp. When Balazar and I returned, Tebby let us know what happened. After a moment, I went to talk with Micah, leaving Balazar to skin and bleed the rabbits on his own. Micah and I had grown closer since our time in the capital, and I hoped that he was okay. Walking into the tiny hut, I found a small, completely white creature curled up in clothes meant for a larger human body. What ensued was a conversation about what, if anything, to tell the remaining members of the party about Micah's true nature, which had not yet been verbally disclosed. Eventually, Micah decided, perhaps out of necessity, that it was time to come clean. And so, one by one, party members came in, and Micah, with some light help, explained that the white creature they were seeing before them was a changeling. When in this form, Micah could also go by the name Echo, but was still happy to be known to the party as Micah, despite the actual Micah being a real person whose soul is trapped in a book and can communicate with us, but not verbally, and also might be immortal. It's complicated. I try not to think about it. As a show of trust and response, Eltonis let us in on a secret of his own. He, and those still alive in his noble Asparan family, are undead. Not evil necessarily, but undead nonetheless. He does not sleep, but he still requires sustenance, preferably raw meat when available, but he avoids consuming sentient beings for obvious PR reasons. After that, the rest of the night was spent further bonding as a party. New members have shaken up the status quo, but now we have settled in to the current cast. A closer group indeed, but there are still further shake-ups to come. Until then, we move ever so closer to a forest I call home, and one step further on the journey to rescue our fish friend in Al-Janur. This concludes Ontar's log, June 5th, 2021.